So good afternoon. So we are in the second lecture, lecture number 2 of research methodology classes. So previous day we had discussed what will be the course syllabus and how we will proceed forward. We have discussed in details, and also we have started the introduction. So this module, we were in module A, that is research methodology, and first 3 classes are there in the introduction of research methodology, just introducing what actually research methodology is. Then details will be taken up by Remia madam, and then I will also join later on. So module A, we discussed research methodology. Last week we could do last class motivation and objectives. This is what all we did in the last class. And today we will go ahead with 2 topics which are marked in red. This is research methods versus methodology. What is that? And then types of research. So in types of research, we will discuss all these, mainly 4 types. The first one is descriptive versus analytical. So among types of research, what do you understand by descriptive research or analytical research? Applied or versus fundamental research. So what is the difference between applied research and fundamental research? Quantitative and qualitative research. So which research is quantitative and which is qualitative? And conceptual versus empirical. So basically there are 4 types of research which we will discuss in our class. So this forms the part among the research methodology introduction part. So we have covered motivation and objectives, and we'll go through all these today. And then in the last class of introduction, means Monday, we will follow these 4 stages of research, research philosophy, theory, and development. So this is how we will go about. So let us now go ahead and start. First, first we'll start with research methods versus methodology. Just a recap of the previous day classes. So we did what is research motivation and what are the objectives of research. So we did this in last class. I think I hope everybody is able to hear, right? Huh? And then in the today's class, we go ahead and discuss, just revise about the pasture quadrant, which was very interesting, which I found very interesting, and probably you all, and how the research can be divided into various 4 objectives, 4 objectives. Something in the first quadrant. So the quadrants X, what are X and Y axis? So the X axis, so this is consideration of use, and quest for fundamental research is along the Y axis. So the first quadrant is pure basic research, means there is only quest for fundamental understanding and there is none consideration of use. In the second quadrant, or the posture quadrant, or user inspired basic research, we discuss that it contains both, means both. So you have both consideration of use and fundamental understanding clear in all those properties, which, or all those materials, or all those research which addresses some use. Then is pure applied research, which is inverted driven to solve a practical problem. So which is only considered from the user point of view and not from the fundamental understanding. And then the fourth quadrant, there's some research is done, but it ends up nowhere. So we must be somewhere in the 3 quadrants. So we will do I will give you some assignments so that you can find out where you stand in your objective, in your research. So right after the introduction, motivation and objectives, we now proceed forward in today's class regarding research methods versus methodology. So what is the basic difference between research method? So what do we understand by research methods and what do we understand by research methodology? So just the basic understanding, means the introduction. In details, everything will be taken up in due course. So this is what research method is. So research methods may be, so if we look here, research methods may be understood as all those methods or techniques that are used for conduction of research. So this clearly makes us understand or that what we mean by research methods. So all those methods or techniques that are used for conducting your research. So if you see that, as I discussed, that I will always refer what I did. So during my PhD and also right now going on, so we develop catalysts for various types of reactions, some um, high temperature reactions, some electrochemical reactions. So for those reactions, we need to use certain methods or techniques. So what are those? Those includes some characterization techniques like X-ray diffraction, as I discussed, and all uh, catalytic activity results. Also, some imaging like my taking images of my microscopic images, and then electron transmission electron microscopy images. So all those falls under research methods or techniques because we are using those methods to conduct our research. Similarly, what you are doing, you will use during your research so many techniques and to find out the property of the material which you are studying, or you may to find out the system. You will be using certain methods to describe your system. So those falls under research methods. So research methods or techniques thus refer to the methods the researcher used in performing research operations. So this should be clear that research methods or technique thus refer to the methods the researcher used in performing research operation. In other words, all those methods which are used by the researcher during the course of studying his research problem are termed as research methods. So whatever techniques you will be using, those fall under the category of research methods and not research methodology. So what is research methodology? We will discuss later. But let us slightly describe in details what research method means. So research method can be put into the following three groups. So basically there are three groups of which you can describe all those research methods which you are using. The first group includes those whose methods which are concerned with the collection of data. So first is concerned with the collection of data. So suppose somebody who is doing research in analytical field. So they are analyzing, suppose in groundwater, somebody is doing research on groundwater arsenic content and how to reduce that. So initially what he will do, he will find out the data of how much arsenic is there in groundwater. So initially there will be a collection of data by some instrumental methods like ICP, OES or some analytical techniques, and those data will be used. And these methods will be used where the data already available are not sufficient to arrive the required solution. And these, whatever methods we use to collect the data, this falls on the category of research method. What can be the second group? The second group consists of those statistical techniques which are used for establishing relationship between data and the unknowns. So basically, there will be data and there will be unknowns. So if you can develop a statistical technique, means theoretical statistical techniques. So you have a series of data and you see that, okay, this data varies with a square root or square or just with the property of that which you are measuring. For example, those who does electrochemical studies, so they are familiar with something known as Randall-Sedgwick equation. So what they do, so in electrochemistry, just I'm giving examples, otherwise it becomes difficult. So you measure the cyclic voltammetry pattern. So you measure the CV pattern. So first is collection of data. You collect the data, the CV patterns at different scan rates. Now you plot, if you get a peak, then you will see that with the variation of scan rate, the peaks varies, the peak intensity. Now, if you plot the peak intensity with the square root of the square rate or square of the scan rate or with scan rate, certain phenomena falls in square root of the scan rate, certain falls in just varies, the peak intensity varies the peak current intensity varies just directly with the scan rate. Some phenomena it varies with the square root of the scan rate. So we use now a statistical technique which establish a relationship between the data and the unknowns. So many statistical techniques you can use to just establish a relationship, means correlate whatever data you are collecting, research method, and correlating with the unknown. The third group consists of those methods which are used to evaluate the accuracy of results obtained. So there is all these methods, all these three methods you will study in details in future classes. Just we are giving an introduction. So accuracy, precision, all those many definitions will come in due course, and also already whatever data you collect, those who are in the analytical field, they have to give report also the accuracy, precision of the results obtained. So that also falls under the category of research methods. The research methods falling in the above stated last two groups are generally taken as the analytical tools of research. As I discussed, these are falls under the analytical tools of research. Now we come, what is research methodology? At first, it seems that, okay, research methods and methodology is all the same. It's something which is research method and methodology. It seems that same. But we discuss what research method is. Collection of data by using a technique, establishing a statistical technique which establishes a correlation between the data we have collected and the unknown. And then third is to evaluate the accuracy of the data obtained. The last two falls on the category of analytical tools, but all three falls under the category of research methods. So what is methodology? Research methodology is a way to systematically solve the research problem. So it's totally different, as you see. So somebody is doing research in development of material for a particular means enhancement of a particular property. Say, for example, I do in enhancing the catalytic property. So how I can systematically solve the research problem? I can find out the parameters or the properties of the materials for which will increase the catalytic activity or decrease the catalytic activity, both ways. So my research is to identify the parameters which increases the catalytic properties or decreases the catalytic property. Similarly, somebody who is dealing with optical property, luminescence, electrochemistry or electrochemical properties, and so on, a host and wide range of material development can be there to improve the thermal conductivity, to improve the develop radiation resistant materials, and so on. Now you will have to develop a methodology to establish a systematic way to solve this research problem, how to enhance or to identify the properties. For that, you will use research methods. You will use some tools. Suppose my aim is to increase the catalytic activity of the material. What I have to use? I have used to catalytic reactor to identify or collect the data for the catalytic activity of each material. Okay, so those catalytic activity data collection is research method, and the way I collect data, the catalytic activity, as well as the property of the material, say the structure of the material, the local structure of the material, the morphology of the material, the redox properties of the material, the thermal stability of the material, and so on, the electrochemical conductivity of the material, and then establish a correlation between the research, the catalytic activity, and identifying the parameters for which the catalytic activity is increasing, which parameters of the material will increase the activity, which parameters will decrease, or which characteristics will decrease. So systematically, once solving it, the research problem is the research methodology. So in research methodology, we use research methods, means we use techniques systematically to solve the research problem. In it, we study the various steps that are generally adopted by researcher in studying his research problem along with the logic behind them. So somebody who is doing a thermal, suppose I am developing a catalyst for increasing the thermal activity. So it has to be thermally stable. So some logic must go behind it. So along with the research method, you add the logic and it becomes the research methodology, multiple research method. Researchers not only need to know how to develop certain indices or test, how to calculate the mean, the mode, the median or the standard deviation or chi-square, how to apply particular research techniques, but not only this is sufficient, but they also need to know which of these methods or techniques are relevant and which are not, and what would they mean and indicate and why. So as you do research, so once you start the research, what you do, you define the objectives of research initially. First, you start research because you are definitely motivated to research. There will be some certain reason for which you are motivated. So you start the research, and then during your research problem, there will be an objective. It means you want to achieve something. That is your objective. Now, how you will achieve your objective, that will depend how you adopt the research methodology, how best you adopt the research methodology with the help of research methods. So the methods or techniques are research methods, but which technique to use and how to logically means explain the data, that is research methodology. So you need to know all the research methods, errors, and everything, how to calculate the mean, mode, median, standard deviation. All these will come in future classes in research method. You also need to know which of these methods or techniques are relevant and which are not, and why would they mean and indicate and why. So that is very, very important. Suppose we do electrochemical reaction, thermal reactions also. Now, if certain property of the material, say suppose I derive the thermal means conductivity data and try to correlate with the electrochemistry or electrochemical data, it may or may not be valid, but definitely electrochemical conductivity or electronic conductivity will be one of the factors for which the catalyst will be active for electrochemical reactions. So I will apply the electronic or electrical conductivity data and not the thermal conductivity data when I use the catalyst for electrochemical reactions. So you have to know this logic, that which method you will use or which technique are relevant and how and why we will use that. So during research, once you have the objective, once you start collecting data, first you should have the research methodology, means systematic way how you will proceed with the problem, which methods you will use, and then also why you will use, means why questioning is very important when we do research. Researchers also need to understand the assumptions underlying various techniques, and they need to know the criteria by which they can decide that certain techniques and procedures will be applicable to certain problems and others will be not. Suppose you are dealing with development of photoluminescence materials. So where you will be interested in optical properties and not the thermal properties, like that. So there will be a vast range of properties or the techniques available to you, but which one you will use and why you will use, that should be clear to you. And that will be clear only when you are motivated, your objective is clear, and research methodology is you have a very clear-cut clarity on the methodology which you will adopt. Then the research methods which you will use, means the techniques and procedures which you will use, why you will use, will be clear to you. For example, an architect who designs a building has to consciously evaluate the basis of his decision. That is, he has to evaluate why and on what basis he selects particular size, number, and location of doors, indoors, and ventilators, uses particular materials and not others, and the like. So definitely you can understand this, that for a room, you do not have 4 doors. Definitely you will have 1 door, and number of windows has to be such that there is a cross ventilation. So many planning the architect has to undergo. So use a particular material which will be, means you have a appeal, and not others, which will be stable and which will have strength, and not others which will not have strength. So they look in the economy, they look in the strength, they look into the aesthetics. So many things he has to look into. And he had to have a clear understanding of the methodology, how we will go ahead with the decision of designing his building. Similarly, in research, the scientist has to expose the research decisions to evaluation before they are implemented. She has to specify very clearly and precisely what decisions he selects and why she selects them, and so that they can be evaluated by others also. See, finally, of whatever research you are doing, it is time to time evaluated by your supervisors, and eventually it will be evaluated by your external supervisor, I mean, it's external examiner. If we talk about the PhD, if we talk in general, we are all means whatever we are doing, we have to be very clear. Then only we can explain others. Okay, if we are clear or we have a clear understanding of what methodology we are using, then we can clearly or with clarity explain it to others, and it becomes meaningful, reproducible by others under the same conditions and procedures. So this is how you have heard of citations of papers. So if you have a reproducible results, then others will carry out, and if it is promising, the results, it will be carried out by others and reproduced, and they will modify something and cite your paper like that. So this is a table which I have given you, means just from literature. So what is the difference between research method and research methodology in one table format? So research methodology refers to a process for effectively addressing research problems. And in research method, describe the methods that researchers use to conduct the research. So I think the first, after discussion, so much discussing, this is just a snapshot of what we have discussed. So this is number one. This research methodology refers to the process for effectively addressing research problems, while research method describes the methods that researchers use to conduct the research. Number two, investigate the various methods that can be used to conduct the experiment, test, surveys. As I told you in time to time, you have to decide which methods to use. It involves in methods, but it involves conducting an experiment, test, and survey. Used to find a solution to the research problem in research methodology. Used to achieve the research objective. Aims to answer this question, how did the researcher complete his study? Aims to answer this question, what tools did the researcher use to complete his research? Okay, so what research methodology answers, it aims to answer the question that how did the researcher complete his study? How? And in research method, I think this is the most clear answer, that which tools he used to complete his research. So somebody who's doing material development, so he will use a host variety of characterization tools to complete his research. But in research methodology, how systematically he used his tools is, suppose he wants to develop a nanoparticle with very good applications, so how he chose his tools, and systematically how we explain this using the research method, the tools. Any research must start with research methodology. So this is important. So any research, while you are starting, it must start with research methodology. You should be clear in future which method you will be using, and how you will find a solution to the research problem by collecting the data and explaining it also. Because it provides a way for choosing the most suitable research methods. Research, where it be scientific or not, must have research methods. So research methods is everywhere. So this is in a snapshot what is the difference between research methods and methodology. Just after this, we'll have a assignment also. I think you can just write 1 or 2 points and give us some assignment if possible. We will see if it is possible to get some assignments done, and we don't know how, because there are so many students, so I don't know how we'll collect those assignments. Anyways, after this, an exam will be there, means after the completion of the whole process. When we talk of research methodology, we not only talk of research methods, but also consider the logic behind the methods. we use in the context of our research study and explain why we are using a particular method or technique and why we are not using others, so that research results are capable of being evaluated either by the researcher himself or by others. Why a researcher study has been undertaken, how the research problem has been defined, in what way and why the hypothesis has been formulated, what data have been collected, and what particular method has been adopted, why particular technique of analyzing data has been used, and a host of similar other questions are usually answered when we talk of research methodology concerning a research problem or study. I think now it is clear, this slide, that if you have a clear understanding of the research methodology which you will be adopting, then you can answer a whole lot of questions beforehand, and more clearly you can explain your research methods or the data which you obtain as you proceed. And by applying a logic, you try to solve your research objective and arrive at the solution. Now, this is what we did about research methods and methodology. So we have completed motivation objectives, research methods versus methodology. Now, finally, in today's class, now we move on to the types of research. So this is very important. As I told you, today also I have recapitulated that one is pure basic research and one is pure applied research. So first quadrant and the third quadrant. So in the types of research, the first is fundamental versus applied research. So the fundamental research is the first quadrant and applied research is what is 3. Or 2 also to a certain extent, 2 or 3 you can see. Fundamental research, which is also known as basic or pure research, is undertaken for the sake of knowledge without any intention to apply it in practice. It is undertaken out of intellectual curiosity and is not necessarily problem oriented. I hope you can understand right now. Research, fundamental research is something, or the research which is addressing only basic or pure research for the sake of knowledge, and you do not have any intention. You do not have any intention, but ultimately in future it can be applied. But during the research, you do not have the intention to apply to solve any practical problems. It is undertaken out of intellectual curiosity and is not necessarily problem oriented. So this I have given in blue, fundamental research. Research on improving a theory or a method is also referred as fundamental research. Examples of fundamental research, these are in blue: astronomy, identification of new planets or stars in our galaxy. So here we increase our knowledge. See, right now we have such huge knowledge regarding the astronomical sciences. And it's pure basic research. Sometimes it may be useful, and sometimes in a galaxy beyond our solar system, we are identifying new planets with intense astronomical research, and it adds to the basic research value, our knowledge about the astronomy. Similarly, elementary particles, identification of new elementary particles like muon, bosons, fermions. So, as you know, means those who are from physics background, they all know how important it is and how it has added to the pure basic research problem. On the contrary, when we come to applied research, or the second or the third quadrant, mostly the third one, is carried out to find a solution to a real life problem requiring an action or policy decision. So directly, applied research should be third because it directly has to solve a particular problem. Means we have to find or discover a solution to a basic practical problem. Say, for example, in North India, just it came to my mind abruptly, that there is stubble burning. Okay, so there is huge biomass which is being burned in the North India, and it causes huge pollution and decreasing AQI index in the capital as well as other places. So one solution, one applied research can be how to discover a solution to this pressing practical problem. So you can develop a biomass means utilization plant where you can effectively convert these biomass into useful chemicals instead of stubble burning. So you solve or you discover a solution to a pressing and practical problem. Then that becomes an applied research. But ultimately, you have to go to the plant level. Further, other examples increase, this is just the textbook example, increasing the efficiency of a machine. So for mechanical engineering, so there is a defined efficiency of certain machine, and your research is particularly devoted in increasing the efficiency of that machine. So the wholehearted research goes into increasing the efficiency of the machine, and such research problem will come under applied research. You will definitely adopt a research methodology, use research methods to arrive at your problems. So increasing the efficiency of a chemical process. I think many of you have heard, and many might be in the doing PhD also right now. Many of you have heard that there are so many in DAE hydrogen generation processes like iodine sulfur process, copper chlorine process, and there are other processes like hybrid sulfur. So these are large chemical plants. So these are chemical processes, and you are doing research to discover a solution to increase the efficiency and establish a high-level plant. That means chemical engineering problem. So if you can do that, you are doing pure applied research. You have an objective to establish a very high-level plant with and target efficiency means target hydrogen production of say 150 NLPH or say 3 meter cube per hour, and you have a targeted efficiency of around 40%, means just for sake, and you establish a research methodology and come to the solution. Means at the end of your thesis, you come to a solution. Then you solve a pressing practical problem. Means you have developed a hydrogen generation plant with targeted rates and efficiencies. Then your research comes under applied research. Those who are doing research in metallurgy or in material science, they develop materials which targets to improve the properties of that material in for a certain application. Say what I told you means we are material scientists, we develop materials for or catalyst for certain reactions. So if I can improve the properties with a targeted improvement, say right now, say for the example which I gave is that okay, for one reaction which I studied during my thesis was sulfuric acid decomposition. So this was a high temperature reaction, and they established catalyst was, or the conventional catalyst was platinum. So my research was to discover a material which can be low cost and at the same time give similar activity and stability like platinum. So we worked on iron oxide based catalyst. We defined the objective that okay, we need these kind of conversions at this temperature, 100 hours of stability, and we could, after establishing a methodology of preparing the samples and finding up, we establish means this what I will say, evaluating the catalytic activity and characterizing the catalyst, we correlated and came to a practical problem. Yes, iron oxide can be a suitable substitute for platinum for sulfuric acid decomposition. Similarly, with several targets, so many means unending problems have been solved in material development in DAE. So many materials have been developed, means from clad materials to install the nuclear reactors, so many problems. Similarly, efficiencies has been solved. So many chemical processes has been developed. It has come up like this with a targeted means solution to the practical problems. And most of our research in DAE comes under applied research. Besides in biosciences, there can be so many societal applications like preparing vaccination for a disease like in COVID, what we did. So those comes under applied research. And this is the difference between fundamental and applied research. Now, the second type of research is descriptive versus analytical. So what do we understand first versus descriptive research? So descriptive research, see somebody is waiting. So is a fact-finding investigation which is aimed at describing the characteristics of individual situation or group, describing the state of affairs as it exists at present. The main characteristic of descriptive research is that, what is the main characteristic of descriptive research is that the researcher has no control over the variables. He can only report what has happened or what is happening. So somebody who is doing descriptive research has no control over the variables. So what he takes, he has only control over, can only report what has happened or what is happening. For example, in social science research or business research, it is known as ex post facto research. So what has ever happened or what is there, we can only analyze that data. Suppose, for example, frequency of shopping. So this is required in business because, suppose demand. So they have to undergo their business statistics. So what they have to do, they have to do research about the frequency of shopping, how frequently the people are coming and how much expenditure they are doing, so that their business improves, their model improves. So this is, now they have no control over the people who are doing shopping, but they just have to go with the report, what has happened, and then they do an ex post facto research. Means after what has happened, they sit down and analyze the data and do a research. Okay, which are the products which are attractive, which are the products which are economical, and which products people are buying. So this is very important for business and also in social science, to know the preferences of the people, monument, tourist places in the city, what are the people are going. And then under the heading analytical research, there is what it deals with analytical research. It is somewhat totally different. It is primarily concerned with testing hypotheses and specifying and interpreting relationship by analyzing the facts or information already available. So you have the descriptive research. Now, what you have after descriptive research, you have post facto research data. If you analyze it, analyze the information available to make a critical evaluation of the material, then it becomes an analytical research. Say, for example, mechanical chemical evaluation of materials for a particular application, suitability of water from a particular source for drinking purpose. So, as I told you, analytical research. So, in West Bengal, from where I'm coming, so there is a problem in drinking water in certain areas, not everywhere. So there is some arsenic which is in groundwater. So if we have the data, how we will have the data with the help of analytical research, we can get the data, and then future means you can explain to the people whether the water is suitable for a particular source for drinking or not. So it has applied research, but based on analysis. So both of these comes under applied, descriptive, analytical, but descriptive is mostly in social science and business, and analytical for social applications. Quantitative versus qualitative research. So what do you understand by this? So quantitative research is employed for measuring the quantity or amount of a particular phenomena by use of statistical analysis. It is applicable to phenomena that can be expressed in terms of quantity. Okay, but what is qualitative research? It is a non-quantitative type of analysis which is aimed at finding out the quality of particular phenomena. So simple, the difference between quantity and quality. And so the qualitative and quantitative research are just defined based on the terms quantitative and qualitative. So you can understand once you take examples. So quantitative is something which have defined concentration of pesticides in a bottled drinking water. Suppose a drinking water, you have to have a quantitative analysis done using statistical, means experimental data and statistical methods. So somebody who does those type of research is doing a quantitative research. On the other hand, investigating the reasons for human behavior, why people think or do certain things, how people feel or what they think about a particular subject or institution. Suppose you are doing this course, so already you have in mind, means whether this course is good, whether sir is taking a good class or not. So many things. So somebody who analyze those kind of behavior. So this comes under behavioral sciences, means, and those studies are coming under qualitative research. So what we are doing means in DAE, most of the research comes under applied research, as I told you. And there are some definitely fundamental research, a lot of analytical research, but also quantitative research, but qualitative, not much, because uh, we are not much doing investigations on human behavior. But there is a very interesting branch or subject which deals with this. There are so many famous people who have established human behavior, and it is being still studied in many important behavioral sciences, and also in several places where the aim is different. Where what is the aim is to discover the underlying motives of human behavior, why people are behaving in a particular way. And they have also, I don't know whether you have learned the term, heard a word, the term learned helplessness. So why people are feeling helpless? Because there are certain means in behavioral sciences, so many famous scientists have established so many reasons for a particular human behavior. They have classified them and derive method for betterment of human behavior, definitely. So that which is known as positive psychology. I don't know whether you have heard it or not. So it deals with improving the human behavior, so they behave much more positively. So that is a different branch of science. We'll not go into behavioral sciences, although, but it's very important and very interesting, where the aim is to discover the underlying motives of human behavior. Once you know the motives, what you can do, you can improve the human behavior context, means and so on. And this is the last one, that is conceptual versus empirical research. Conceptual research is related to some abstract ideas or theory. It is generally used by philosophers and thinkers to develop new concepts or reinterpret existing ones. Where empirical research, what we are doing, experimental type of research, is a data-based research. So whatever we do is empirical. It's not. It depends upon experience or observation. Empirical research is appropriate when proof is sought that certain variables affect other variables in some other way. Empirical research is that characterizes experimental's control over variables under study, and thus is deliberate manipulation of one of them to study its effects. And there are certain other miscellaneous type of research, like historical research, decision-oriented research for decision makers. And this is the assignment which I think you can do, and make it short. Don't write more than one page. Just write one word answer for this four, and one only, not or maximum two. And don't make it long. If possible, you do the assignment, and where we have to send, we'll tell you in next class after discussing with the course coordinator whether we can set up a email ID where you can send all this. So if I can create some email ID, you can send all this. But if you go through the, because we will be sending all the lectures what we are taking to you once the class is over, right? Isn't it? So once we send you, you can just go through, because because you all are busy with your own research. So after about 10 days itself, you will forget what we have taken in classes. So immediately if you do the assignment, you can have a fair idea, okay, there is some, you can think that, okay, these classes are, there has some meaning. And there is not only some meaning, but it has a lot of implications on what research you are doing. So I would request you to, if possible, do the assignments. We'll do it today itself so that you do not delay. Once you delay, it will go out of your mind. These all these PDFs will be shared with you. Anyone having doubt for my class, you can directly email me. My email ID is, and all the lecturers and the course coordinators' email ID are given in the first class lecture note. This lecture note will also be shared, and this assignment will also be shared. Try to write something in a Word file and email. Don't email the assignment to us because it will be huge. There are many people attending. So we'll generate an email ID, or we'll ask the HBNI people to help us in this regard. And then slowly you will find interest in this subject. Thank you. And if you have any questions, the YouTube people cannot ask question, but the webinar means those who are in uh, what I will say. Oh, there is another web. One is YouTube. Another one, what is going on? WebEx. So WebEx people can ask questions, and YouTube people can write down if you have any queries. Somebody has written whether we can get the PPT. Definitely, the PPT will be shared with you. But that is done by HBNI. So eventually, you will get the PPT shared in your email ID. So if you have any questions, the YouTube people can write it down, and the WebEx people can directly tell us. I will unmute everybody. Unmute everyone. Question. I don't know whether we can see in YouTube if somebody has typed some question. Uh, I don't know. I don't see right now. So we will meet in the next class again. And if you have any question, you can directly email me. I can discuss with you in the next. Acha, acha, acha. Okay, you can. So one question Rohit Pandey ji has asked. So our research work should be such that it can be reproducible by others under same conditions. What same conditions do you mean? Suppose I don't know in what field you were doing research, but I would like to tell that if we consider, suppose what I always say, material character means material development or catalyst development, which I am doing. So what I expect is that at a particular temperature, at a particular flow rate of the reactants, means the experimental conditions which I am keeping, if somebody using the same experimental condition, it is expected that he gets the same data. For that, what you have to do, your research or your data has to be have good accuracy and precision. So all those will be discussed in details later. This is just the 3 classes are the introduction classes to introduce into the nomenclature. So here, accuracy, precision, reproducibility will be defined by that. So in future, Remia madam will be taking that classes, and you will have a fair idea what do you mean by reproducible under the same condition. So the experimental conditions under which you are doing, if your data collection is accurate, somebody else who will characterize the same material under the same condition will get the same data, right? I think I am able to convey that. So, sir, if the research project is unique and very few are expertise into the subject like nuclear jet propulsion technology, in that scenario, what can be done? No, see, nothing is, Prashant, nice to hear from you. Nothing is means compulsory. I gave you the assignment. You try to do whatever way you can do maximum. So you can write general. All these are general classes, no specific. If nobody has to write any specific answers or any specific question. Just I try to make it because you will be doing your PG or thesis you will be submitting, or if somebody is doing just research, you can write in general words. What means no need to go into the details or expert opinion. The exam will be online. Exams is not yet decided. It will be eventually told to you by course coordinator. We have to sit and decide. Definitely, Dr. Amit Tyagi ji, if you are interested in behavior of quantity, lattice parameter behavior with temperature, definitely it is quantitative. It is no way qualitative because you are plotting the lattice parameters with temperature. So at precise temperature, your lattice parameter are quantified. A, B, C, alpha, beta, gamma are all quantified. So definitely it will be quantitative. And it is very interesting. So something very interesting field of research. Exam will be objective again. The exam pattern will let you know. We have to discuss. And then I'll come, regarding the exam, I will let you know if possible in the next class. Thank you. What is the deadline for assignment submission? See, first of all, assignment is not compulsory. So whoever wants to do at the moment can send. Whoever, because I have not discussed this with the coordinator, and whoever does not wish, you can skip. But I think you can, in general, write in a Word file and email I will share with you, and you can send it, say, before the next class will be better. Miss the deadline if you say. Sir, can you give our attendance in live chat? I don't know. Attendance I'm not controlling. I don't know. It is not possible, I think. Any other question? Nice to see some questions. Means it. Nice to hear. Means then I think you are able to understand. Is another somebody has typed. Fundamental research is something. Shashi Bhushan Sahu has asked a question. Is there any correlation between the fundamental and conceptual research? As I told you, if you go to the slides, it will be shared with you. Fundamental research can be conceptual, or fundamental research is a competitor between the, if you compare, then fundamental is compared with applied, isn't it? And yes, fundamental research, because conceptual is lead to some abstract ideas or theory. Definitely, fundamental research can be conceptual or empirical both. Okay, thank you. So again, we'll meet in the next class on Monday at the same time. Thank you.